In the middle of a heavy downpour, a badly injured woman lies sprawled across the hood of a car. The scene then shifts to our main character, Anna, a journalist who rushes back to her apartment in a clear state of distress. It feels like she has just done something she is trying to process, calming herself down with alcohol. As she moves around, she notices her swollen gums caused by a painful tooth infection. Still panicking, Anna begins cleaning her messy apartment, throwing away anything she no longer needs. Deep down, she believes that while every story has two sides, there is always one version that is hiding the truth. This is his and hers. We are then introduced to Jack Harper, the head detective. He lives with his niece Meg and his younger sister Zoe. On the same day, Jack arrives at work where his partner Priya quickly informs him about a newly discovered body. Without wasting time, they head straight to the crime scene. Meanwhile, Anna is already digging into the case through social media while visiting a dentist. The doctor recommends extracting her tooth, but Anna refuses and chooses to rely on painkillers instead. Later on, Anna returns to her workplace after taking a year off. The first person she encounters is Lexi Jones, the woman who has taken over her role as a news anchor. Standing in front of her boss, Jim, Anna insists on getting her job back. She proposes becoming a field reporter and covering the murder case in her hometown, Dahlonega. She is convinced the victim is a white woman. Despite his hesitation, Jim eventually agrees. But Anna has another motive. To get back at Lexi, she requests that Lexi's husband, Richard, be assigned as her cameraman. At the crime scene, Jack and Priya examine the victim and discover she was stabbed multiple times. What stands out the most is a disturbing detail. The killer left a message carved into the victim's fingernails, forming a two-faced symbol. Afterward, Jack gathers his team and instructs them not to inform the victim's husband yet, as he wants to handle it personally. He also orders that if anyone finds the victim's phone, it must be brought directly to him. Priya then approaches Jack and reports the footprints found at the scene. She believes the boot prints belong to the killer, while the barefoot prints belong to the victim. But Jack warns her not to jump to conclusions too quickly. At the same time, Anna arrives at the crime scene and meets Richard. She stays in the background while other reporters bombard Jack with questions. Jack explains that the Lumpkin County Police received an anonymous call about a body found in the National Forest near Dahlonega. However, the victim's identity remains unknown, and the cause of death is still under investigation. As Jack prepares to leave, Anna suddenly stops him and asks if he recognizes the victim. Caught off guard, Jack turns and looks at her for a brief moment, then walks away without answering. This leaves Priya wondering why Anna would ask such a question. Instead of explaining, Jack assigns Priya a new task while he heads off to take care of something else. After leaving the crime scene, Anna takes Richard to a hotel restaurant. There, she begins to flirt with him, testing his boundaries. But outside, Jack is watching them from a distance. In the middle of this, Jack receives a call from Sheriff Barnes, who confirms the victim's identity as Rachel Hopkins and reveals that her husband is Clyde. However, Jack cuts the call short when he sees Anna and Richard getting up and heading inside the hotel. He decides to follow them. Using his charm, Jack convinces a receptionist who recognizes him to give him Anna's room number. Inside, Anna and Richard have already gotten intimate. Hearing them together clearly frustrates Jack, and he starts pounding on the door. Anna, annoyed by the noise, opens it, but by then Jack is already gone. Quickly, Anna gets dressed and prepares to leave. Before doing so, she reveals to Richard that Jack is actually her husband. Outside, Jack calls Priya and asks her to look into Richard's background. Meanwhile, Anna heads to her mother's house. As she enters, she accidentally drops a set of keys near the door. Inside, she finds her mother, Alice, asleep on a chair. When Alice wakes up and sees Anna, she is overjoyed and immediately hugs her. Not long after, Jack arrives as well and checks whether Alice has taken her medication. Alice seems happy to see him, but Anna's not. Jack pulls Anna aside and questions why she asked about the victim at the crime scene. He warns her not to get involved in the case. But Anna already knows the woman was murdered and pushes Jack to tell her the truth. Eventually, Jack reveals that the victim is Rachel Hopkins, Anna's former close friend, who was stabbed to death. He urges Anna to keep this information secret, and she agrees not to tell anyone. During their conversation, something strange happens. Alice suddenly asks Jack when he arrived, even though she had just seen him moments earlier. This confuses Anna. Jack then takes Anna outside and explains that Alice was recently found wandering the streets at 2 a.m. without any clothes. He believes her memory is deteriorating and her condition is getting worse. Despite this, Alice refuses to seek medical help. It is also revealed that Anna had been missing for an entire year. During that time, Jack lost his job as a detective in Atlanta while trying to find her, which is why he eventually moved to Dahlonega. The tension between them quickly rises, and their conversation ends in an argument, with Anna storming back inside. Later, Jack heads to the morgue, where he meets Priya and Dr. Turner, the medical examiner handling Rachel's autopsy. Dr. Turner explains that Rachel was stabbed 40 times with a short knife. Her fingernails were cut down past the skin, and there are no defensive wounds, which suggests she knew her killer. Even more disturbing, Dr. Turner reveals that fresh semen was found, likely belonging to the murderer. She then requests DNA samples from everyone who was at the crime scene, including Jack and Priya. However, Jack refuses to provide his sample for now and asks Priya to leave with him. At the same time, Anna searches through a box from her closet filled with items from her teenage years. Inside, she finds old tapes and a video camera. One of the recordings shows her 16th birthday party, celebrated with her friends Helen, Rachel, Zoe, and Catherine. In the recording, Anna and her friends are seen heading into the woods to hang out. But for some reason, Anna suddenly stops the recording without explanation. As she continues going through the box, she finds her old friendship bracelet. At the same time, Dr. Turner discovers a similar bracelet inside Rachel's mouth. Meanwhile, Jack and Priya arrive at the house of Clyde, Rachel's husband. They find it strange that he has not reported his wife missing. Even though no one answers the door, someone is clearly watching them from inside. Jack decides to leave and return the next day. Later, Jack goes home and finds Zoe watching the news, where Lexi is reporting on the murder. To his shock, Anna is already at the crime scene, revealing on live television that the victim is Rachel Hopkins, a 40-year-old woman who was stabbed to death. Jack is furious watching this, while Anna appears completely satisfied. As Anna looks at the crime scene, she flashes back to the night before Rachel's death. Rachel was with Jack inside his car, being intimate. Not far away, Rachel's car was parked, and Anna had been watching them from a distance without their knowledge. Back in the present, Jack drives off in anger after Anna exposes Rachel's identity. Meanwhile, Anna scrolls through Rachel's social media, along with profiles belonging to Helen and Zoe. Suddenly, Jack storms into Anna's room, banging on the door before forcing his way inside. An argument breaks out between them, but it ends with Jack warning Anna not to interfere with his investigation. Before leaving, he mentions that he plans to interview Clyde the next day. The following morning, Dr. Turner presents the friendship bracelet found in Rachel's mouth. Jack immediately recognizes it, realizing that Zoe owns the same one. Once again, Dr. Turner asks for DNA samples from both Jack and Priya, but Jack refuses and instead takes Priya with him to Clyde's house. During the interrogation, Clyde explains that he knew Rachel went into the woods to have an affair. Due to his heart condition, he was no longer able to satisfy her, so he allowed her to seek relationships elsewhere, as long as it did not happen at home or in Dahlonega. Rachel preferred reckless encounters without concern for others. However, Clyde insists that he has no idea who Rachel met that night. He claims he was at home with his dog when she was killed. To support his statement, he shows CCTV footage of himself taking his dog outside after Rachel left. In the footage, Priya notices that Rachel made a phone call before leaving. Clyde adds that her phone is still active, as he has been calling it repeatedly. Hearing this, Jack urges him to stop calling, since it could drain the battery and make the phone harder to track. Clyde believes that whoever Rachel called that night is most likely her killer. He also mentions that Rachel had a cruel personality, one that could have pushed someone to kill her in such a brutal way. Jack is puzzled by how Clyde knows the exact number of stab wounds, and it turns out that Anna had already told him earlier that morning during an interview. Before they leave, Clyde suggests that Rachel's friend, Helen Wong, the headmistress of St. Hilary, might know who Rachel was meeting that night. At the same time, Anna arrives at St. Hilary while calling her boss, Jim, to update him about her interview with Clyde. Meanwhile, Jim is with Lexi, watching Anna's report outside Clyde's house. That is when Lexi realizes something unexpected. Her own husband is now working as Anna's cameraman. Not far from there, Jack tries to contact Helen, but she does not answer his calls. The reason quickly becomes clear. Helen is actually on the phone with Clyde. Both of them are clearly anxious about what might be on Rachel's phone. Worried that it could expose something damaging, Helen urges Clyde to keep calling the phone in order to drain its battery. Clyde follows her advice and calls again. But in a shocking twist, Rachel's phone is not lost at all. It is hidden under the seat of Jack's car. When Jack realizes this, he quickly hides the phone just as Priya approaches, making sure she does not notice anything. Meanwhile, Anna walks through St. Hilary and begins to recall her past. She remembers being brought there by her mother, Alice, after receiving a scholarship. Back then, Alice worked as a cleaner in Rachel's house. She had asked Rachel to befriend Anna, hoping she would be accepted. But it was clear from the start that Rachel, Zoe, and Helen did not truly like her. On the road, Jack vents his frustration, clearly reluctant to meet Helen. However, Priya insists that Helen must be questioned. She believes Rachel's affair partner is the killer. In her theory, the lover stabbed Rachel 40 times and removed her fingernails to eliminate DNA evidence. Under pressure, Jack finally admits that he knows Helen, since she is close to his sister Zoe. He claims that if Helen knows anything, she will reach out. He also reveals something he has been hiding. Anna is his wife. Back at St. Hilary, Anna finally meets Helen Wong. Her goal is to find out who Rachel met on the night of her death, but Helen refuses to share any information. This makes Anna suspicious, as if Helen is hiding something from the police. Still, Helen insists that she has not even been questioned yet. When Helen brings up Jack's name, Anna decides to leave.
Why is that?
You tell me.
No.
Let's ask Jack.
But before she goes, Helen raises the possibility that a secret from 20 years ago might come to light. Anna responds with a warning of her own, pointing out that Rachel, the one who knew that secret, is now dead. At the police station, Jack begins to suspect Clyde more seriously. He asks Priya to check whether Clyde continued calling Rachel's phone after being told not to. If he did, it would suggest that Clyde is trying to prevent the police from discovering something on it. While Priya follows his instructions, Jack secretly cancels the tracking request for Rachel's phone. He then takes the phone out and attempts to unlock it by entering several passcodes, but none of them work. Priya notices his behavior and approaches him, reminding him that Dr. Turner is expecting DNA samples that night. Later, Jack returns home and finds his niece Meg alone. Realizing that Zoe is not around, he takes advantage of the moment and quietly collects a DNA sample from Meg. Outside, Anna watches everything unfold from a distance, quietly in tears. The moment pulls her back into the past, to a time when she and Jack were planning to buy a house together. It was also when she shared the news of her pregnancy with him. But even in that memory, there is tension as Zoe suddenly appears, clearly showing that she never truly welcomed Anna. Back in the present, Priya manages to track Clyde's phone activity. She confirms that he did continue calling Rachel's phone, even after being told to stop. Meanwhile, Anna visits her mother again. Alice tries to talk about her health and open up to her, but there is a clear emotional distance between them. Anna had disappeared for an entire year after losing her daughter, leaving behind her job, her husband, and even her own mother. During that time, Alice had no idea where Anna was and could never reach her. Now, Anna wants to take Alice to see a doctor, but Alice refuses. Not long after, Anna receives a call from her boss, Jim, who informs her that Lexi has suddenly gone missing. He asks Anna to step in and host the evening news. Anna agrees, even though it is unclear when Lexi will return. Despite everything, Alice feels relieved just to have Anna back. At the police station, Priya examines the boot print found at the crime scene. At the same time, Zoe tells Meg to bring Jack's shoes upstairs. What Priya sees on her screen matches perfectly with Jack's boots. Meanwhile, Jack arrives at the morgue and finally provides his DNA sample. He then asks to enter the autopsy room, claiming he is looking for his wedding ring. When the attendant is distracted, Jack takes the opportunity to approach Rachel's body and uses her retina to unlock her phone. Once inside, he immediately deletes his messages with Rachel. As he continues searching, he reads through conversations between Rachel and Helen, discovering that they were trying to blackmail someone identified only as C. He is shocked to realize that Helen knew about his relationship with Rachel, dating back to their school days. At the same time, Helen is seen looking at old photos of herself and Rachel, clearly overwhelmed by the memories. Soon after, Helen contacts the police and asks to be connected to Sheriff Barnes. Meanwhile, Anna prepares herself to go on air. Just before the broadcast, she sees news coverage about the investigation into Rachel's death and its connection to St. Hilary, the elite girls' school they once attended. The report highlights how the school's headmistress, Helen Wong, continues to refuse any comment. The story then takes us back to the past. In a school cafeteria, Helen, Zoe, and Rachel are seen mocking a girl who is sitting alone, Catherine. Anna notices that Catherine seems isolated and feels sympathy for her. Rachel then tells Anna to invite Catherine over while she goes to get drinks. Rachel approaches Catherine and invites her to join them. Moments later, she returns with a drink and hands it to Catherine. After taking a sip, Catherine immediately feels something is off. What she does not know is that Rachel has secretly tampered with the drink in a humiliating way. Realizing what has happened, Catherine feels deeply embarrassed and walks away. Back in the present, Jack continues going through Rachel's messages with Helen. As he digs deeper, he finds a video showing Rachel and Helen humiliating Clyde. But his focus is suddenly broken when Meg appears and surprises him, inviting him to join dinner. As Jack sits at the table, Zoe pulls Meg away and turns on the television. The tension quickly rises as Zoe begins confronting Jack about Rachel's death. She makes it clear that Rachel was her friend, and she strongly suspects Jack's involvement. The pressure builds as Zoe questions his actions, including why he secretly took a DNA sample from Meg. Eventually, Jack admits that he was with Rachel the night before her death, meeting her in the woods inside his car. However, he insists that he is not the killer. After their encounter, he left and claims he has no idea what happened afterward. At the morgue, Priya submits her DNA sample along with Clyde's. The attendant mentions Jack's earlier visit and his unusual behavior while searching for a wedding ring. This raises suspicion, especially since Jack is not known to wear one. Meanwhile, at the TV studio, Anna's about to go live when Lexi suddenly shows up, claiming she had been taking care of a family matter. Jim decides to put Lexi back on air, leaving Anna humiliated as she walks out of the studio. At the same time, Jack is on his way to Helen Wong's house when Priya calls him with new information. She reports that Clyde made 2 calls, one to Rachel and another to Helen. This leads her to believe that there may be something on Rachel's phone that could damage both Clyde and Helen's reputations. Jack, however, tells her to stay focused on Clyde and Helen as the main suspects. When Priya brings up the boot print evidence, Jack dismisses it and again redirects her attention. She then questions his strange behavior at the morgue, pointing out that he does not even wear a wedding ring. Jack brushes it off with another excuse and quickly ends the call. From that moment on, Priya quietly adds Jack to her personal list of suspects. Meanwhile, Jack is stopped by one of Helen's staff, who tells him that she is still at the school. At the same time, Priya is watching Clyde from a distance and notices him throwing away a bag. After he leaves, Priya checks the trash and discovers that the bag contains a disturbing item, a mask used for sexual activities. Jack then arrives at the school to meet Helen, but she refuses to open the door for him. Not willing to wait, he forces his way inside only to find that her office is locked. Instead of pushing further, Jack shifts his focus back to the crime scene. Before heading there, he carefully wraps his shoes in plastic and makes his way to the exact spot where Rachel was killed. As he studies the ground, he finds footprints and begins recalling his last encounter with Rachel. During that moment, Rachel mocked Anna, which triggered Jack's anger and led him to grab her by the throat. Rachel fought back, scratching his face before things escalated further. Back in the present, Jack walks through the forest and eventually reaches a nearby cemetery. Suddenly, an elderly groundskeeper points a gun at him, but it turns out the man, named Willie, knows Jack. As they talk, Willie mentions the existence of CCTV cameras, which prompts Jack to ask for footage from the night Rachel was murdered. In the recording, Jack sees a cloaked figure standing in front of a gravestone. What makes it even more unsettling is that the figure is standing right at the grave of his daughter Charlotte. Jack immediately believes the person is Anna and begins to suspect that she may have witnessed his affair with Rachel that night. Before leaving, Jack visits Charlotte's grave, taking a quiet moment for himself. At the same time, Anna is lost in her own memories of the past, recalling moments with Jack and their daughter. She remembers a night when Charlotte had a fever and would not stop crying. Jack brushed it off as nothing serious and tried to convince Anna to leave with him, but Anna wanted to stay and take care of their daughter. In the end, Jack reassured her that everything would be fine, and they decided to leave Charlotte in Alice's care. Back in the present, Anna arrives at her hotel room, and shortly after, Richard joins her. He apologizes for Lexi's earlier behavior, while Anna, still emotionally shaken, begins to question whether doing something wrong can be justified when life itself feels unfair. Meanwhile, Jack receives news about Alice and rushes to the scene. Once again, she's been found wandering outside without any clothes. He brings her back home, where her fragile state becomes even more apparent. She expresses how exhausting it feels to slowly fade away, alone and disconnected from everything. Despite that, Alice encourages Jack to fight for Anna if he still loves her. Taking her advice to heart, Jack finally gathers the courage to send Anna a message, but she never responds. He returns home exhausted and falls asleep in his chair. The next morning, everything changes. Priya calls him with shocking news. Helen has been found dead. Jack immediately heads to the scene, where Anna is already present. She greets him with a calm smile, almost as if she has been expecting this. Not long after, Anna reports the news, announcing Helen as the second victim in Dahlonega and raising the possibility of a serial killer. At the same time, Priya informs Jack about what Anna had told her earlier. According to Anna, Helen had sent a message to her hotel asking to meet at St. Hilary, but by the time Anna arrived, Helen was already dead. Jack then asked Priya to contact the hotel and confirm whether Helen actually sent that message. After that, Jack approaches Anna to confirm her story. Anna insists that Helen asked her to meet at St. Hilary that morning, but by the time she arrived, Helen was already dead. She explains that she called the police about 45 minutes later and claims she has no idea why Helen's office door was unlocked when she got there. At the same time, Priya uncovers something important. The message from Helen was actually sent to Anna's hotel after midnight, yet Anna only received it in the morning. The timing does not quite add up. Priya also confirms that both Rachel and Helen were killed with a knife, and in both cases, a friendship bracelet was found in their mouths. There are no fingerprints at either crime scene, which leads the team to believe the killer is experienced and careful. Digging deeper, Priya checks Richard's background and discovers that 3 years ago, he was charged with assault after breaking a woman's jaw. Jack plans to warn Anna about this, but she leaves before he gets the chance. Instead, he confronts Richard directly and tells him to stay away from her. Meanwhile, Anna meets with the mayor of Dahlonega. She proposes a televised public discussion to reassure the community and present the town as strong and unafraid. The mayor rejects the idea, worried it will only make things worse, but Anna pushes back, warning that his chances of re-election could be at risk if he fails to address the growing fear surrounding a possible serial killer. Back at the morgue, more disturbing details emerge. Helen's eyes were clamped shut with metal staples, and the word liar was written across her forehead. Dr. Turner cannot yet confirm whether the same knife was used in both murders, but the presence of the same bracelet strongly suggests that Rachel and Helen were killed by the same person. Later, Jack returns home and searches through Zoe's belongings. Inside her drawer, he finds a bracelet identical to the ones connected to the murders. When he questions Zoe about it, she reacts angrily and reveals that Anna made those bracelets for all of them. She also reveals something else. Helen and Rachel were in a relationship, and Rachel had once shown interest in Anna during their high school years. Their conversation is interrupted when Jack receives a call from Sheriff Barnes. The mayor is planning a press conference that night, and Jack is expected to prepare for it. At the same time, Anna receives a message from the sheriff asking about her mother. Alice had once again been found wandering outside without any clothes the night before. Concerned, Anna rushes home to check on her, but when she arrives, Alice is nowhere to be found. As Anna looks into a mirror, she is pulled back into another memory. She recalls Rachel giving her a bra as a birthday gift, watching her closely as she tried it on. Not long after, Zoe, Helen, and Catherine entered the room. Rachel then pretended to apologize to Catherine, claiming the earlier prank with the drink was fake. But moments later, she took out a camera and began taking pictures of both Catherine and Anna in a vulnerable state. Back in the present, Alice calls out to Anna from downstairs. She asks Anna to stay with her, but Anna refuses. Instead, she promises that once everything is over, she will take Alice with her to Atlanta so she can take care of her properly. At the police station, Priya contacts the tracking team to follow up on Rachel's phone, but she is shocked to learn that the tracking request has already been canceled, and it was Jack who did it. That night, a press conference is held at City Hall. Anna opens the event, presenting it as a way for the public to get answers and calm the growing tension. She then invites Jack to step forward, but the situation quickly spirals out of control. The crowd begins demanding answers, questioning Jack's ability to keep the town safe. Zoe steps in to defend her brother, but the tension only escalates. Unable to regain control of the room, Jack walks away. Anna takes over, but instead of calming things down, she pushes the crowd even further. She subtly directs suspicion toward Zoe, suggesting she could be involved. The atmosphere turns chaotic, and a fight breaks out among the residents. Amid the chaos, Anna stands back with a satisfied smile, knowing she has just created powerful material for her story. At the TV station, Jim is equally pleased watching the broadcast. Not long after, Lexi arrives and informs him that she plans to go to Dahlonega to cover the story herself. Back at City Hall, Zoe confronts Anna, clearly shaken by what just happened. She questions whether all of this is connected to something from 20 years ago. But instead of giving answers, Anna responds with a warning that only deepens the tension. Later, inside her car, Anna arranges a meeting with Jack. Before leaving, she thanks Richard for working with her, then drives off. Meanwhile, Priya learns something critical from the morgue attendant. Jack's DNA sample has been contaminated, containing genetic material from 2 different people. Curious and increasingly suspicious, Priya looks through an old St. Hilary yearbook. There she finds a photo showing Anna, Rachel, Zoe, and Helen all wearing identical friendship bracelets. She quickly takes a picture of it. Not long after, Anna and Jack meet near a waterfall. This time, the truth starts to surface. Jack realizes that Anna had seen him with Rachel on the night before her death. He insists that he is not the killer, and Anna claims the same. The conversation quickly turns personal. Anna brings up the death of their daughter Charlotte and places the blame on Jack. He pushes back, reminding her that he also suffered that loss. What he cannot understand is why Anna chose to disappear without explanation after everything they went through. Anna reveals her reason. When Charlotte died, Jack tried to reassure her by saying everything would be fine. To Anna, it felt like he was asking her to forget their child. Unable to accept that, she chose to leave and deal with her grief alone. Hearing this, Jack apologizes. Anna does the same, and in that moment of vulnerability, they reconnect. The tension between them softens, leading to a moment of closeness that draws them back together. The next morning, Jack meets with several officers to discuss the case. He remains convinced that Clyde is the killer. But then Priya arrives with new findings. She reveals that Rachel, Zoe, Helen, and Anna were all close friends during their teenage years at St. Hilary, and they all wore matching friendship bracelets, the same ones found in the victims' mouths. Priya believes that something from their past may have caused a deep conflict, and that this old grudge could be the motive behind the murders. She begins to suspect Anna, while Sheriff Barnes leans toward Zoe as a possible suspect. Jack reacts strongly, rejecting both theories and insisting once again that Clyde is responsible. Priya then points out something else. Anna's career has suddenly risen again after the deaths of Rachel and Helen. Combined with the lack of defensive wounds on both victims, which suggests they knew their killer, the suspicion around Anna grows stronger. Although Jack is clearly uncomfortable with this direction, Sheriff Barnes supports Priya's theory and gives her permission to formally question Anna. Frustrated and running out of patience, Jack confronts Clyde and pressures him to confess. He accuses Clyde of killing both Rachel and Helen out of fear that the private and damaging videos on Rachel's phone would be exposed and ruin his reputation. Jack also brings up the messages between Rachel and Helen, pointing out that they were blackmailing someone identified only as C, and he is convinced that person is Clyde. But Clyde denies everything. Instead, he turns the accusation back on Jack, revealing that he knows about Jack's affair with Rachel and promising that there will be consequences for it. At the same time, Priya visits Alice's house to question Anna. Anna, clearly under pressure, tries to be honest, but nothing in her answers directly points to her being the killer. Before leaving, Priya raises concern about Alice's worsening memory condition and reminds Anna not to neglect her mother. Back at the station, Jack follows up on a new lead. He contacts a local man who recently provided information about Rachel. The man claims he used to be involved with her and once drove her to an apartment called Unit 11 in Atlanta to meet someone. He stayed in the car while Rachel went inside, but when she came back out, her face was red and bruised. The man believes she had been struck by someone inside. This pushes Jack to request a list of residents who had lived in Unit 11 over the past year. While waiting for the list, Zoe enters his office, visibly shaken. She fears she might be the next target, given her connection to Rachel and Helen. Jack reassures her, trying to calm her down. Zoe then begins to bring up something from the past, hinting at what Rachel and Helen did to Anna during her 16th birthday. But before she can explain further, an officer arrives with the list from the apartment. Jack scans through it and finds two familiar names, Lexi Jones and Richard. Without hesitation, he leaves Zoe behind and heads straight to a bar to confront Richard. There, Jack demands answers, accusing Richard of having hurt Rachel in the past. Richard denies being involved, explaining that he was not even in the country at the time Rachel visited that apartment. He also clarifies that the assault charge from 3 years ago happened because Lexi had a stalker, and he attacked the woman to protect his wife. However, when Richard brings up his involvement with Anna, the situation quickly escalates into a physical fight.
Fuck off me! Fucking crazy!
News of the altercation reaches Anna soon after. Instead of reacting with anger, she urges Richard not to press charges against Jack. She even threatens to expose their affair to Lexi if he decides to take legal action. Meanwhile, Priya continues her investigation by questioning Zoe. She asks about the history between their group of friends. During the conversation, Priya realizes that there were actually 5 of them, including Catherine. Surprised, she is shown an old yearbook photo where Catherine appears alongside the others. Later that night, Zoe returns home, clearly shaken and afraid. She tries to calm herself with alcohol before deciding to take a bath. But in the middle of her attempt to relax, someone enters the house without her knowing. Moments later, Zoe is suddenly attacked. At another location, Priya continues digging into Catherine's past. She discovers that Catherine had a sister named Andrea Kelly, who has already passed away. Not long after, Priya uncovers another crucial detail. Rachel had made calls to 3 people before her death: Clyde, Helen, and Jack Harper. This only deepens Priya's suspicion toward Jack. Meanwhile, at the hotel, Anna and Richard are told that their reservation has been canceled by someone from the TV station. With no rooms available, Richard suggests they go to his in-laws' lake house instead. As they travel, Anna begins recalling the rest of what happened on her 16th birthday. Back then, Rachel, Zoe, and Helen took Anna and Catherine into the woods. Anna was recording everything, trying to comfort Catherine, who was clearly uneasy. At first, it seemed like a normal gathering, but things quickly took a dark turn. Without telling Anna or Catherine, Rachel had secretly invited a group of men. They pressured both girls to drink, and once they were intoxicated, the men handed money to Rachel. What followed was a disturbing situation where Catherine became the target of harassment. Back in the present, Jack returns home and immediately looks for Zoe. When he forces his way into the bathroom, he is devastated to find her lifeless in the bathtub. At the same time, Anna and Richard arrive at the lake house. Richard mentions that Lexi is inside, which makes Anna uncomfortable, but he manages to convince her to come in anyway. Once inside, Anna is left alone and begins looking around. She notices family photos and eventually comes across an obituary for Andrea. As she examines it more closely, she finds a photo of Catherine standing beside Andrea. There are also pictures showing Catherine's transformation over the years, including her graduation and weight loss. Then she sees a wedding photo of Richard and Lexi. Something about it stands out. Lexi's natural brown hair matches Catherine's. In that moment, everything clicks. Anna realizes that Lexi is actually Catherine. The story briefly shifts to Catherine's past. She is shown with her sister Andrea and their parents, preparing for a boat trip. Andrea treats Catherine poorly, mocking her appearance and ordering her around. Hurt and angry, Catherine secretly empties Andrea's inhaler before they leave. Out on the lake, Andrea suffers an asthma attack and cannot be saved. Back in the present, a panicked Anna calls Jack and tells him where she is. Jack, still shaken, reveals that Zoe's been killed. Anna becomes convinced that Lexi is behind everything, with Richard helping her. But their conversation is overheard. Richard realizes what Anna knows. Jack, sensing the danger, rushes to help her. However, just as he is about to leave, Priya suddenly appears and blocks his path. She points a gun at him, demanding answers for everything that has been building up. She calls for backup, but Jack keeps advancing. With no other choice, he knocks her unconscious and leaves immediately to save Anna. Meanwhile, Anna finds herself cornered by Richard, who continues to threaten her. But she manages to grab the gun she's been carrying in her bag all along. Richard quickly runs into another room, and although Anna runs out of bullets, she manages to lock him inside. Just when it seems like she has control, Lexi suddenly attacks her from behind, using a flower pot. At the same time, help finally arrives at Jack's house, and Priya is rescued. She immediately heads toward the lake house while informing Sheriff Barnes about a new confession. It turns out that Lexi had accidentally told Rachel about Andrea's death in the past. Because of that, Rachel and Helen began blackmailing someone identified as C, which is actually Catherine. Back at the house, the tension explodes into a violent confrontation between Catherine and Anna.
You lured me into the woods!
Know what they were gonna do,
You
Catherine?
fucking liar!
Catherine blames Anna for everything that happened to her during that birthday night years ago. As the fight reaches its peak, Lexi grabs Anna's gun and points it at her. Just as she is about to pull the trigger, Jack bursts into the house and steps in, saving Anna at the last second, even though the gun is already empty. Then out of nowhere, a shot is fired. The bullet strikes Catherine, killing her instantly. It is revealed that Priya fired the shot from outside the house. Moments later, the police arrive and take control of the scene. Outside, Anna finally opens up to Jack about what really happened on her 16th birthday. She explains how Rachel had deliberately invited those men into the woods, leading to the horrifying incident. While Catherine was targeted, Rachel, Helen, and Zoe stood by and watched. Anna admits that she never told Jack about it because she wanted to pretend it never happened. Overcome with guilt, she apologizes, and Jack does his best to comfort her. Inside the house, Priya discovers Rachel's fingernails and the same short knife used in both murders. Richard is arrested, but he continues insisting that neither he nor Catherine is responsible. Later, when Jack is alone, Priya approaches him, clearly shaken. She feels guilty about shooting Lexi, especially after realizing that the gun Lexi was holding had no bullets. Jack reassures her, trying to ease her conscience. 1 year later, life seems to have moved forward. Anna has returned as a news anchor and is now pregnant with Jack's child. Jack, in the meantime, takes care of his niece Meg. Together, they go to the station to pick Anna up, stopping by Charlotte's grave along the way, before visiting Alice to spend time as a family. As Anna reflects, she explains that the most dangerous thing people can do is lie. Later in her room, Anna receives a letter written by Alice. As she reads it, the final truth begins to unfold. The real killer is Alice. Through the letter, we are taken back into the past. On the night Charlotte died, Anna and Jack had left her in Alice's care. The doctors later called it a sudden death, but Alice could not escape the guilt. Months passed, and Anna eventually disappeared, leaving Alice alone with her grief. To cope, Alice spent her days watching Anna's old tapes, until only one remained, the recording of Anna's 16th birthday. In that recording, something different is revealed. When Catherine was about to be harassed, Anna had actually put down the camera and tried to help her. But instead, the men turned on Anna. Catherine fled the scene, while Rachel, Helen, and Zoe stayed behind, watching and laughing as everything unfolded. Alice was completely devastated when she saw what had been done to her daughter. The pain never left her. She often visited Charlotte's grave, holding on to the hope that Anna would one day return. But that day never came. Over time, Alice uncovered more painful truths. She learned about the affair between Rachel and Jack. Then on the anniversary of Charlotte's death, she finally saw Anna again. But that moment only broke her further, when she realized that Anna had witnessed Jack betraying her with Rachel. That was the turning point. Alice made a decision to take revenge for her daughter. She sabotaged Rachel's car by puncturing the tire. Afterwards, she removed her clothes and pretended to be mentally unstable, creating the perfect cover so no one would suspect her. Even though she left footprints behind, no one would ever think they belonged to her.
Lacked imagination. Sharp knife.
As a former cleaner who worked in multiple places, Alice knew exactly how to move unnoticed. She had access to Catherine's lake house, Zoe's home, and even St. Hilary. With locks that had never been changed, it was easy for her to slip inside and carry out the murders of Helen and Zoe. That is why, on the night Alice was once again found wandering outside without clothes, Helen was discovered dead the very next morning. As for Catherine, things were different. When Lexi took over Anna's job, Alice recognized her as Catherine. But she never intended to kill her. Instead, she wanted Catherine to be arrested and held accountable for abandoning Anna in the woods all those years ago. That is why Alice carefully planted evidence. She cut Rachel's fingernails and hid them in a drawer. She also left the knife at the lake house, all to frame Catherine as the prime suspect. It is also revealed that Alice was the one who canceled Anna's hotel reservation, using a phone from Lexi's house. She believed this would set everything in motion and ensure Jack would come to save Anna. However, there was one thing she did not anticipate: Priya's arrival, which ultimately led to Catherine being shot and killed. In her letter, Alice explains her reasoning in a way that is both chilling and heartbreaking. By killing Rachel, she brought Anna back home. By killing Helen, she helped revive Anna's career. And by killing Zoe, she gave Anna back the family she had lost. At the end of the letter, Alice leaves one final message. She asks Anna to love her child the way she had always loved her, to teach them the value of hard work, and most importantly, to show them that a mother's love never fades. As Anna finishes reading, she looks outside and sees Alice standing with Jack and Meg. A quiet smile forms on her face, mixed with tears, as she finally understands that everything her mother did was driven by love, no matter how dark it became. So the moral of the story is, never cheat, never bully people, and never underestimate a dramatic mom with old VHS tapes and unlimited free time.